They used to say that a picture is worth 1,000 words, but these days, pictures are so easy to fake that you can't believe what you see. There's even freely available software that lets you put Hermione Granger's head on my body and have her do and say things that J.K. Rowling never wrote. This might not even be me talking to you right now. It could be a deepfake. So I'd like to talk a little bit more about fake news, in particular fake photos. Since the invention of Photoshop, you really can't believe anything you see in a photo. In fact, it's so easy to make fake photos these days, anybody can do it. Everybody has a camera in their hands at pretty much all times. It's a trivial matter to take pictures, edit those pictures, upload them. All right? There's lots of funny memes going around. There's one guy who photoshops himself into, I think, Kylie Jenner's Instagram feed. Most people Photoshop their photos to some degree before they upload them. Chinese smartphones come preloaded with software to fix pictures before they're uploaded. It's considered bad manners in China for young people to not edit a friend's photo before they upload it. Once upon a time, it was difficult to fake photos, but people have always done it. One of the earliest cases is the so-called Cottingley fairies. And this was the early days of photography, and a couple of little girls, cut out some pictures of fairies from a magazine or whatever, and took selfies of themselves with the fairies. And they're obviously fake. What you want to look for in the photos is the ones with the blurred waterfall in the background, but yet the fairy's wings are crisply captured, right? And the slow shutter speed of a camera back 100 or more years ago meant that, of course, anything that was moving was blurred. You had to stay very still back in those days. And so those are obvious fakes. It was just some girls playing around. But the interesting thing about the Cottingley fairies is they fooled Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. This is the brain that came up with Sherlock Holmes, and he was completely and utterly fooled by the Cottingley fairies. So if you wanted to, you could take for example, a UFO model, and you could hold it out the window and with your other hand take a picture of it, and then you could go to something as simple as Microsoft Paint and erase the thumb and then crop that picture so you don't show the window frame, and then you can take that image and you can put it into other photos that you happen to have on your computer to make UFO pictures. So when you see photos like this, you should be skeptical. And what you might look for is inconsistencies, for example, between the light and shadow on the foreground versus the light and shadow on the UFO, for example. But also you just think, wait a minute, where was that picture taken? If that is in fact a giant UFO in the distance, what would that be above, and why didn't other people see it? Some of the most famous UFO photos from the days before digital photography are obvious fakes. The Trents in Ohio were very famous for some UFO photos. And Life magazine is the way things went viral back in those days. And the photos themselves, the way they're usually cropped, they leave out the obvious telephone wire or whatever above it. So a rival hypothesis is that's a small model that's hanging from the telephone wire. The other thing is they took a couple of photos, and the story is that the UFO came whizzing across the sky and they snapped a couple of pictures of it. But then the question is, why did they wait to finish out the roll of film before they took it down to the drugstore to get the film developed to see if they had in fact captured the UFO photos? And so there were also some inconsistencies in their story about the time of day. You can look at the shadows and such and see whether it was evening or morning kind of thing. Another bit of inconsistency with the photos is when the investigators came to see the original negatives, because that's the thing you wanted to inspect in those days. The kids had been playing with them and they were underneath the sofa or something like that. So and in fact, if you analyze the patterns of shadows in there, what it was a picture taken from over here, and then another picture taken from over here, rather than a series of pictures taken as the UFO streaked across the Ohio sky. So you can look for inconsistencies in the photo itself, but more importantly, what you want to look for is inconsistencies in the behavior of the photographers. Another famous set of UFO photos from back in the day were the Rex Heflin photos. Rex Heflin took 3 Polaroids of a UFO from inside the cab of his pickup truck in Southern California. And first question is, if there was a giant UFO hovering in the distance, how come no one else saw that? Because if, based on where he was, if that was a giant UFO in the distance, it would have been over the Santa Ana freeway or some such thing, so lots of people should have seen it. He also originally presented 3 Polaroids and then later came up with a 4th one. Later on he claimed only to have copies of those pictures because the men from NORAD came and took the originals away. But the damning evidence you can see just by looking at the photo itself. In one of the photos, the side window of the side mirror of the truck is there, and what it shows is a line of telephone poles down along the side of the road. So we have to conclude that this was not a large UFO off in the distance, it was a small model hanging from the wire. So we can jump forward now to the present, where we don't really believe photos because they're so easy to fake. But now there's this issue of deepfake videos. Right? You may or may not believe that this is me here speaking into this camera. There is software to fake, convincingly fake people talking. This is a worry, especially in political campaigns, when most candidates will produce videos, or video will resurface from previous campaigns or previous careers, and that can be used to tip an election. The scary part is the videos are often good enough that you can't tell by analyzing the video whether it's real or fake. So what do? That's the tricky problem. So here's what we do. We don't analyze the videos per se. You can look for obvious inconsistencies in the videos, but more importantly, you analyze the behavior of the photographers. Now, it's less obvious who the photographer is for an online video thing that's propagating through social media or whatnot. But you can trace things back through various social media to see where the video clip originated. And once you've figured out about where the video clip originated, then you can look in great detail at the behavior of that user. Most people are quite unaware of how much of their electronic trails online are recorded and analyzed. It's really quite horrifying when you learn about it. You can analyze not just what people say, but what they text, what they type, and so on and so on, what they post, right? You can analyze their entire corpus of utterances, and that will give patterns of behavior that will allow you to tell the difference between something that's real and something that's fake. And so, because it's not just where the thing originated, it could originate on anyone's desktop. All it takes is free software and a gaming level computer to do this. It doesn't take Pixar level render farms and things like that to make fake videos anymore. Just about anybody who wants to do this can do this, but once they do it, then if we analyze what they say, what they have been saying, what they've been doing, where they've been going, and such, that entire corpus of utterances can be used to figure out whether it's likely real or likely fake. So part of the research that we're doing here is developing methods to analyze in a simple way the corpus of utterances. Twitter, for example, but other sorts of things. Text-based things can be analyzed, voice-based things can be analyzed, and you can tell whether someone is real or fake. More importantly, you can tell the difference between a real human who's typing things and Twitter bots that are programmed to say hateful things about a political opponent, for example. I'm Dr. Ignatius B. Know-It-All, Professor of Interesting Stuff, logician, magician, seer. Look me up on all the ethers at IB Know-It-All. The K is silent, so don't bother typing that.